Hello, today I'm going to show you how to put together the Gnome SVG file from Simply Crafty SVGs. So we're going to start with the hat, and we have this piece that we need to fold, which is a hat piece. And the reason I'm going to show you this first, we want to fold it first. You can put the panels on, but it's going to help you figure out where to put the panels, to place the panels. So if you can see, I'm carefully folding it, and if you do have dash cut lines, you kind of want to start from the bottom of the hat up to the tip, because as you get up to the tip it gets thinner and it's harder to fold. So just start from the bottom, go up to the top, and it should fold upwards. So we're not going to glue it yet. We're going to put the panels on after this, and you'll see it'll glue with that tab. So we're just going to fit them in, and it fits the whole section. You just want to put a little glue, make sure you don't go too much on around the close to the edge. And I use my little Jerry's fine tip applicator to I'm using art glitter glue. So you can see, and there will be links below if you want to look at the products I'm using. And just speed this up so you can see. We just continue to put all the panels on. Then after the panels on, we'll glue it together, assemble it. So, and I embossed the panels before putting them on, because I like little texture. So I'll put a link to the name of the embossing folder, or it may not be a link, but at least the name will be there. But this is pretty popular, the little dots. You can get those pretty much with any manufacturer out there. And you can see it kind of fits in, but you just want to line it up. And then once we have them all on, we can glue the hat shut with that side tab. So we want to make sure there's good fold there before you start, and then add glue lightly. Be careful again getting glue too close to the edges, and too much glue, it will leak out. So normally with these kind of shapes I like to line it up on the bottom if I can first, and then kind of run my finger up. You can see I'm lining up that edge with the tab fold, and then using like a wooden chopstick, one of those takeout kinds, I can just get some pressure behind that fold so I can apply pressure with my finger on the outside. So it's a handy tool next time you're to a Chinese restaurant. If you don't have one, if you get takeout, just keep one of those. It's a great craft tool. So now we have to fold the edge piece for the hat. So this is the structure. Another panel will go on top. But you see it's going to glue together here this way. Now you could put it on tab by tab if you wanted to, like this, and then glue that end piece, but we're going to glue this end piece to make it the diameter of the hat. And then we're just going to glue those tabs to the inside. So with these things I like to anchor at least one tab. But first I want to prep them. I kind of fold it inward and outward so I have a little flexibility in the tabs folds so they move well for me, and then push them all in. You see it'll just fit in like that. And I do like to line up where the seams from the top of the hat to the seams on the bottom. So you'll have the seams always on one side so you can make it the back. So here you can see I'm lining up that top part of the hat edge with the inside tab fold there, and just holding it. You want to make sure it's good and dry before you move to the next step, because you don't want it popping off. And I do it so I can pull it up like this and add glue to the other tabs. And you can do it all in one fell swipe. It's the easiest way to do it, but you want to make sure your glue is not too much, but enough so it's not dry by the time you get to press that tab down. So I'd like to secure the tab across from the first one first, just to get it so the rest of them go lined up in place without a problem. So now I'm just going in and making sure that I'm pushing down each tab in the inside and lining it up, making sure that that tab fold is lined up to the edge of that top piece, and you can see the tabs inside. Then just going around making sure that they're nice and secure before I move on. So here I embossed this before. I had to go 2 passes, like a half at a time, because it was this smaller embossing folder, and then just fold it on the scores. And this will fit on that bottom section. And again, I'm trying to match up to make sure that the back piece of this lines up to the back seam. So you kind of want to, because I want to keep it at the back. Now, one thing with this piece, it doesn't go all the way around for this, but sometimes paper, depends on the thickness of the paper you're using. So if you're using just regular paper, it's going to go to that. It should fit around perfectly, but the thicker cardstock you use, the more it kind of throws it off a little bit. I mean, if it really bothers you, you could put another extra piece of the same color underneath, so you don't see that little spot. But you can see I'm just gluing just 3 sections or so first, and then lining it up, making sure that those scored portions are matched up to the scored portions on the hat. And then I'm going to add glue to the rest of it. And see if you, that's the hard part about doing any kind of panels with scores in them. It will go around for majority papers, but some it doesn't. I can fine tune it, the file, but every time I fine tune it, it really is, depends on the type of paper you're using. So I just kind of push it towards that last seam as much as I can, so I don't minimize it. And again, you can cover it. If it bothers you, you can cover it just with a little piece of paper. So now that the hat's done, we're going to work on the body. So right here you can see that we folded them. So you want to make sure you fold them on the score lines first, and then you can assemble it. So the way that I usually assemble it is to add glue to that top tab first, and then line up the edge of the second piece to the tab fold. Make sure it's lined up and you can feel it with your finger. And we're just anchoring it so we can attach the other tabs. So we're going to, if you've done these before, you could just continue on, obviously, but if you haven't, it gets easier, especially with the same shape. You just kind of go down, make sure you're lining up that edge to the tab fold on the left, and just making sure you're applying pressure and moving on as you secure each tab. And you can continue to watch the rest of it, and I'll come back shortly for a tip on how to close it up. So now we get to the last set of tabs, and we're going to add glue to all those tabs. And then we're going to skewer the top tab first. So you want to line that up. And then we'll go to the bottom tab and line that up, get those two secured. And then we can line those last two tabs up. You can reach inside to apply pressure. So and just make sure they're good and secure before you're done. Now we're going to add the panels, and you can see there's a slight curve to them. The shorter one will be for the front, but you kind of want to curl them, so pre-curl them to make it easier to get them on the actual body, the 3D body that we just created of the gnome. So they'll fit just right in there. So you can just add most of your majority of the glue you want to do on the top and bottom, but you can, I just always do a little line of glue down the sides in the middle. And then here's the small piece. Make sure you try to get it centered. I didn't center this as well as I wanted to. You can start at the bottom, line it up for that one, start at the bottom. And then the rest of them you can start at the top and go to the bottom, or whichever works for you best. So I started from the top and just kind of applied pressure going down. And then you continue to do so for all the panels. And so when you do a little curve to them, it'll make it easier to adhere. And I'm taking a little bit more time. If you do use a paper, it's easier to adhere and it goes on easier. This is, I'm not quite sure where I got this paper, but it's a thicker cardstock. So if you're using a cardstock, it does take more time to make sure it's secure before you move on. You don't want it flipping up on you. So it was kind of a, it was a I would put the link to the paper, but I got it probably, I would say at least 5 or so years ago, and I lost the package. I've never seen anything like it yet, but this was a perfect project for me to use it on the body of the gnome. I saw it and I thought, ah, that's what I want. So you just see more of the same. I am going faster with this video, but I just want to do it just in case there could be always somebody that's new out there that this is helpful to. And then once we get this last piece on, we're going to work on putting the bottom panel. There's 2 panels. One will be for after you put the feet on, attach the feet, but we have to first attach the bottom piece. Just like we did earlier, we anchor one of the tabs to the bottom panel. Make sure it's good and dry, and you can see that it's flipped up there. And then we're going to add glue to all the panels. Again, this is a quick drying glue that I'm using for this piece. This is Scotch Quick Dry, and it does dry rather quickly, so I'm making sure I have enough so it stays wet, but it doesn't go through the paper, if that makes sense. I'm using American Crafts textured cardstock, and I know how much I can use. So we just want to go around, and what's nice about shapes like this is that you can kind of manipulate it as you go around to make sure that those edges of the panels meet the edges of the bottom of the box. And then apply pressure on the tabs with your fingers like that. And you can always finalize it with a blunt instrument like the chopstick to go and just apply additional pressure to the tabs inside. It's always a good idea just to make sure, but we'll put that final panel on after we put the feet towards the end. So now you can see how the hat fits, and that little section without the panel will be where we'll put the middle of the beard. So that's how the feet will go eventually. And right there, all I did was inked it a little bit to hide it, but it will be hidden by the beard. So there's one of the feet put together. I'm going to show you how to put the other foot together. So it is a small piece, I get that. So you want to fold it on all the score lines. if you're new to this, just be patient with yourself, and a fine tip applicator does help. Helps tremendously. But you just gotta go slow. It gets easier with time. And I have a couple really teeny tabs in here, but it's only a couple. And they're not that critical really, but it just helps it a little bit. So you have this other piece, and we're scoring that. To get it ready. And we're going to attach this to that piece we just folded. So it just goes in like that, and you do kind of have to angle it to get it on. So you want to angle it and match it in that area right there. So I think this is the hardest. These are the hardest pieces for this particular project. Then you want to kind of fold it so you can get that other. So you're kind of folding it on that that big fold right there while you're attaching these tabs, and you see it's kind of coming apart. I'm kind of adjusting it as I go and folding it more and holding it. And you want to make sure that's good and secure before you go on. So make sure those two tabs are in the right place. And then you're going to go each side at one at a time. So I'm just going to show you. You see that little tab? It goes underneath. And you want to fold the one on top underneath as well, because that'll be glued to the bottom. So I'm going tab by tab on this side. So you can see how it comes together. And then that folds down to meet that. So you're always wanting to align the edges with the tab folds. And there's that teeny one. You just want to meet the adjacent edge to it. Fold those tabs inward so it'll be easier to get underneath. And then make sure you get any excess glue off. And then that tab underneath. And I'm going to show you a different way to do it on the next side. But the other side is just the same. It's just one side. They are exactly the same. And you see it comes together once you put it all together. Once you start doing it and going tab by tab, it comes together. It had to have 3D feet though. And I wanted a certain shape, so thus this is where we go. So you can see it's coming together. You have one half of it. So we're doing the same on the other side, but we want to make sure we're pushing all those tabs down. The difference is we'll put glue on the side and the top, so you don't have to reach in to put the glue on. So you can see you align that one little piece. And I'm holding only a couple seconds because I'm using art glitter glue, and it a little bit goes a long way, and you can it'll attach pretty quickly. So here the same thing. I'm doing that little side piece, and then now the next top piece. So 2 at a time. And you kind of make sure that little top piece goes underneath as you glue that little side. And then reach in and align that top piece to do that little tab there. So it's almost done. So the first one usually takes longer. The second one, there's just smaller tabs, so you kind of have to hold on to them. So I'm reaching in for that tab on the back there, so I can line that up. And then the last piece will be the piece that goes to the back of the foot. I mean, at least the last piece here. And then we have the bottoms. So we're just going to fold those 2 tabs in. And it's going to fold over like that. And then we'll just glue it shut. The nice thing is you can apply pressure from within. That's the nice thing about these teeny pieces. At least you can get your fingers underneath and apply pressure. And take your time, make sure that everything's lined up before you really apply pressure. One thing with these is that I ink the edges. If you're not familiar with chalking or inking, you can chalk or ink it. It'll make it softer. The edges won't be as harsh. So now we have that. Now you have all these tabs on the back. So as what I've done with other steps, I want to anchor. I'm going to anchor that back piece. And you can see the shape. And we want to anchor it on. So we're just going to match that edge up to the tab fold. And then make sure that it's lined up properly. So when we fold it down to glue on the other tabs, it just makes it easier. So we're just going to flip those in a little bit. Don't flip them all the way down because you want them to kind of stick up so we can get it to stick, because we can't apply pressure from the other side. So we're going to fold it down gently, kind of go around the edges, make sure that we're aligning that panel to the edges of the bottom of the foot. And then you can just kind of rub around over each tab to apply additional pressure until they're set. And then usually I put it against the table to apply additional pressure. Then the last part for the foot, we're going to add that piece right there. So that allows us to glue it to the bottom of the gnome body. So we're just going to add glue right here. And then just line it up. So it'll be ready for when we get to that part. And next we're going to put together the nose, which is another small piece. But in my opinion, the nose is not as bad. So there's the 2 feet. So now it's the same thing. They're tiny tabs, but you just want to go around and fold them on the scores. And whether it's dashed or not, the dashed ones are harder to fold. I'll give you that. I tested, make sure, but that's why I do encourage, if you have a tool, to do solid score lines on your machine, but not everybody has those. So you see that's going to be the top of the nose. I'm just kind of folding those down gently. If you get all that started, it makes it easier to glue it. So we're going to glue that together like that. So we're going to add glue to that little small end tab there. I didn't show it lining up, but there you see it. I'm lining it up right here. The edge to the tab fold there. And we're going to do the same here. Get a better look. Hopefully you can see it well. That's what it looks like. Then we're going to add this top piece. So you just lightly add a little glue to all these little tabs on top. And then just line it up, line that piece up. You can reach in from behind to make sure you're applying pressure, but it's just a little bit of fine work. Move it around, making sure that those edges line up to the folds there to make the tip of the nose. And then we'll add this piece to the other piece. You can see what it looks like inside. So that back flap is going to close the back part of it open. So that's going to be the back. So we're going to line up wherever the seams. So that's why I was trying to find out where the seam was on this one. So you see I'm lining up the seams. Let's go ahead and anchor one of those tabs. And then once we get it anchored, we can add glue to all the other tabs and glue them on the inside of the other piece. And the nice part about this is that you can easily reach inside, and I'm just kind of folding them backwards, and then I'm going to fold them in to help with the flexibility of the tabs. So make sure you fold them all in. I just didn't fold them all in here. but you want to fold them all in because you want them, as you push it up, you don't want it to struggle to get it in like that. You can see as I go around, I'm just aligning it up. And then that's why I said fold it in. You don't want to do that. So I'm just really quickly doing that. I try to as I videotape, think of things that I may be a problem, but sometimes you get to see my little faux pas. So I just reached in to add glue to those last two tabs, and then we'll glue it shut like we did the feet. I'm just getting the glue off my finger. Make sure you always have like a cloth or something that you can wipe the glue off your fingers, because you don't want it to have a little bit more, but you just don't want it getting on the outside of your design. So you just glue it shut just like you did the foot, or the feet, I should say. I only showed you one foot. So that's what you see me just carefully, really quickly kind of lining things up before I really apply pressure to the tabs. Then again, applying pressure against the table to make sure it's good and secure before you glue it on when we get to that step. It's good and dry by the time we get to that step. So now we're going to add the beard. So the beard's going to go on this way, where the middle is in that section without the panel, and it's going to go around. I didn't want to put any score lines in this because it looks better without scores. So there is a bit of a pressure, or there's some technique to get it on without, we're going to first curl it, but we don't want those. We don't want any fold lines in these. It just doesn't look right with folds. So we're just kind of curling it, and I'm just kind of rubbing it from the back just to give it more of a curl. So when we glue it, it'll be easier. So you can see it's going to line up center. There's like two little marks. You can see where the center is, but it just goes around like that. So you'll see how it's going to go. And we're going to curl the beard pieces on the bottom as well up. But I'm still curling it. You just want to have a good curve on it. And then before we put it on, I'm going to show you how I curl them up, but use whatever you need. A circular item, it could be, again, I'm using my handy dandy wooden chopstick. It's the cheapest tool I have, I think. And I have extras. So I'm kind of curling them individually because I wanted it to curl up a certain way. So take the time to do what you think you want it to look like. But it's really, I'm just rubbing it and kind of turning it as I go. Some people have much better techniques. I'm not much of a flower person, so whoever's really good at flowers are probably way better than I am at this. Flowers are not my forte. I've tried, but sometimes you just need to stick with what you're good at. Flowers is not it for me. So there's really no fine art to this. It's whatever you think looks good to you before you put it on. So you can make it messy, however you want to do it. So now that we have it curled the way we want, we're going to attach it. So you see those little marks right there? That kind of, you can see where it ends, that middle is. You can visually see the difference. I kind of kept where it would be scored naturally. So don't add as much glue as I did. I went a little thick on the glue. You want to go lighter because the glue did kind of bleed through, but fortunately you can't see it with the lid on. But if you're going to give this as a gift with something inside, you wouldn't probably want that to show. So you want to center it. And you can apply pressure. Part of the problem was that I applied a lot of pressure there. But if you had like clothespins or something to hold it, you could hold it in place if you don't want to do it with your hand. but because I put too much glue on that particular section, I didn't do it again. I just wanted to warn you to be careful with your glue application. So see how it's going to come around here to the side here? So we're just going to, we don't have to glue, just glue a portion of it. So we're only going to add glue on a section. So kind of angle it. We want to put enough there so it doesn't come off. Again, be mindful of your glue and whether it goes through paper. I'm usually better, but I wasn't paying attention. So you see kind of it folds around here. And again, I made the mistake on this side with putting just a smidgen too much glue, but I figured it out by the last side. Again, that won't show. So if you do what I did, not a huge thing. You just want to put enough to be able to attach it. You can see how it's bowing for me a little bit. So sometimes there's, in these videos, there's what to do and what not to do. So I give you two parts of that, really. So I'm going a little lighter with the glue here. And then, so it doesn't take a lot of pressure to hold it, but what I was worried about is that specialty cardstock I'm using has a little sheen to it. So typically glue's not going to hold as well. So you see how just lightly rubbing. So you can lightly rub and just make sure it's set in place and hold it long enough so when you let go it doesn't come apart. And then this just slides right over it. And you see if you just have it as a display piece, that doesn't show. But if I were to give this as a gift, I wouldn't want that to be like that. So now I'm just putting the seam in the back for the hat. I'm going to put it on first so I know where to place the nose. So I'm going to get some double-sided, this is score tape that I'm using. The reason I did that instead of glue, you can use glue, but it'll attach pretty quickly. So we want to keep the hat on because it's going to help us place the nose. I mean, you could always put a little pencil mark too. I just want to make sure it's the right orientation before I apply pressure. And then I just press it on. You could use glue dots, something like that, and you could reach in to apply pressure from the back as you're putting it on. Because once you get it in place, you can apply more pressure. So there it is. And then we can add the feet. So you can kind of put the feet to the side. You can move them inward a little bit more if you wanted it. The front wouldn't work as well unless you parted the beard, but I'm sure you could play around with the file a bit. So we're going to add glue to that bottom piece there, and also the back of the, I didn't add it here, but you want to put glue on the back of the foot as well, so it attaches to the body. Here, I'm adding it right now. So make sure you get in where you want first before you, because you have glue on the back of it, you don't want to, I moved it over a little bit and I did have a little glue that I had to wipe off. And then here's the second one. And I kind of spaced it the same way I did on the right hand side one. So once you get it in place, you apply pressure, and then I just put it down on the table to apply just a little bit more pressure before I added the final panel to hide those little feet panel that we glued on. It's just more of a finishing piece. It's not that necessary unless you, I think for some reason you wanted to save paper, but it's part of the cut anyways. But then it kind of cleans it up. And you could add little personal touches to this gnome. I mean, it can be used really any season. That's why I didn't call it a Christmas gnome, but definitely it has a Christmas gnome look. And then, you know, I didn't add this to my original gnome, but after I got a little cotton ball, added a little glue to it, pushed it in, and then attached it to the top of the hat. So if you're going to do that, just use a glue that just kind of hold it in place until it's secure. That was the final touch, other than I added a little bit more, like some stickles to some of the dots, embossed dots, that kind of thing, and a little embellishments. So now I'm just making sure that the seam's in the back, and you can see now the Christmas gnome is complete. I hope you enjoyed this project. I certainly did, designing it and making it, and I thank you so much for watching.